Morgan Johnson, and welcome to Softball with Morgan. Okay, so today we're going to go through a couple drills on how to work on contact. So let's go. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to look at is when your player gets into the box, where are their feet? Now, the point of contact is going to change based on where your feet are in the box. So if your player likes to stand more in front of the box versus the back of the box, your point of contact is going to change. So as you see, I have 3 balls down on the ground here. I have for inside, down the middle, and outside. So the way to understand where your point of contact is like I just said, has to deal with your feet. So when your player's in the box, for me personally, I just go right down the middle. It doesn't change whether my pitcher is faster or slower. I always go down to the middle of the box simply because I know this is where I make contact for an inside, down the middle, and outside. So let me go on the ground and I'll show you exactly why you need to have your feet exactly the same every time for point of contact. Okay, so now I just gave you a different angle, so now you're at the catcher's angle. So what I have done is I replaced that ball on the inside on the ground with the tee, so we have a better idea of where our bat is going to hit the ball if we're going for an inside pitch. So to understand the contact of hitting an inside pitch, you have to understand where your hands are versus the ball. Now, when we do this, right, my feet are still down the middle, or in the middle of the box, right, like I just mentioned before. Now, when we do this, we have to keep our hands inside. So think about slicing your elbow through your stomach. Now when you slice your elbow through your stomach, your hands are way inside, right? And that's where the ball is. So we have to keep our hands where the ball is going. So because this ball is inside, we're going to keep our hands way inside. Okay, so when we load and we go, we have our hands way inside and we go in front of our of the plate, in front of our foot. We hit exactly down the middle of the barrel, exactly what we want. So let's say that we're a little late on the inside and we accidentally hit the inside ball as if it was coming down the middle. So if I move this tee back, like it was coming down the middle, like this is the middle pitch, but it's inside. So now, as you see, when I go to load and go, right, I get to contact point, what ends up happening is that I hit the handle. And the reason for this is because we're letting the ball travel too far down the plate. So every time you go inside, you have to make contact a little bit sooner. So this is why you see a ball in the line, outside, middle, inside. And we have to make sure that we're hitting it in front of the plate. So again, when I load and go, right, I load and go, my hands are inside, but the ball is far enough in front of the plate so it hits right down the barrel. Okay? So let's go down to the middle. All right, so now what we're doing is that I removed the inside ball, and now we're going to go down the middle. The most supposedly easy ball to hit, right? Because that's what we always practice and that's what we always warm up with, is just down the middle. So now we're going to make sure that we have an idea of where we need to make contact down the middle, right? We can't be too early, we can't be too late, we have to be on time, right? So, and what does on time mean? Again, what I want to reiterate is that it's always going to change depending on your feet of the box, where they are in the box. So if they're too far in front, this is going to move up. And if we're in the back of the box, this is going to move back. So it's always relative onto where your player puts their feet in the box. So when we load and go, right? So I'm just going to load, and I'm going to go down the middle as if this is exactly where we want to make contact. We go here. As you see, my hands are still inside, on top or inside the white line there, inside the river. And now as you see, it's right in front of the plate. I'm behind the barrel, and the ball hits exactly down the middle of the barrel, which is exactly like what you want. So let's say that your player is too early on down the middle. And when someone's too early down the middle, you usually hit everything to the left side, right? So why does that happen? So let's say I move this too far up the plate, right? Like as if this was inside. So what ends up happening, because this is still my contact point, right? So this is still where I should be making contact. But what ends up happening is if this was normal, right, and I'm going too early, I end up going to extension too early. Now when we end up going to extension, as you see, my barrel was angled to the third base side. And when we do that, we would come here, right? All of a sudden we're hitting the wrong side of the ball. Now we always want to look on the inside to hit the inside and to hit it off the middle, exactly where the ball is coming down the plate. But because we waited, or I should say, we didn't wait long enough, we're going to go everything left field. We're not going to get enough power. So if you notice that you yourself or your player is hitting everything to left field, or they're too, I would say, early on everything, have them wait for the ball to come more down the plate. So again, if we go straight to contact one more time, you're gonna want to see the ball right in the middle of the barrel. So that's how we do down the middle. So let's do outside. Okay, so the last ball that we're going to practice today is outside. So when we go outside, it's going to be like the most, I would say, the hardest ball that feels completely different than going inside or down the middle. It's a ball that a lot of people struggle with. It's either you love it or you hate it. There's not really an in-between. So when we go outside, you have to understand that we're not going to be late on the ball. Like a lot of people say, oh, you have to be late on outside. But that's not true. It's all relative to where your feet are, but you have to be on time for outside. So when you do this, you are technically going to be later than what you would be hitting down the middle, but you're not going to be late. If you're late on outside, that ball is probably in the catcher's mitt. So when we load and go, you have to understand that it's going to have a different angle in the back. We're not going to be flat down the middle, and we're not going to be angled inside to go in for the inside ball, but we're going to have an open angle probably towards that second baseman, between second base and first base. So when we load and go, you have to position the ball for contact basically on the inside of our front leg. You can't have it in front of your front leg, that where normally your down the middle or inside would be, but it's going to be positioned right behind your front leg. So when you load and go, obviously the ball is pretty far outside, so if your hands, I would say, cast a little bit, that's okay. It's pretty common to try to get your barrel out there, especially if you have a shorter bat. But I right now have a 34-inch bat, and so what I do when I load and go, as you see, my bat angle has to be pointed to that second baseman. If our bat is not pointed to that second baseman, our bat angle changes, and we're going to roll over and probably either foul the ball off or go straight to the ground to the pitcher. So again, if I load and go, if I'm here, I have that bat angle positioned directly towards that second baseman and exactly right down the middle of the barrel. So let's say that we're too early on it. So let's just say that we are going to hit an outside ball as if we're hitting it down the middle. What's going to happen? So you might kind of picture what's going to happen based on what I just previously said with an inside and a middle ball. If we load and go and we try to go down the outside, what ends up happening is we end up hitting it on the end of the barrel, and we're going to have a really dinky hit, probably to the first baseman, second baseman, or pitcher. So if you ever see your player, or if you're the player yourself and you end up seeing and hurting your hands all the time on the end of your barrel, let that ball travel, right, and push it over to the second baseman, okay? So let's get some more drills. All right, so as you see, I put the ball on the tee and now it's back inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to go as full speed as we can, game light, because I don't want anyone practicing a slow swing, right? Because it's a lot harder in a game when you try to go full speed and you can't control your barrel. So what we're going to do is just have an idea of what our barrel is doing at contact. So we're going to go full speed and stop right at contact. Now, since it is inside, what I want you to look for and see where your ball is or where it's going is I want it to be positioned over that shortstop head between left field and center field in that gap. That's where you want to go. Now when you load and go and you stop at contact and you find that your barrel is going down, what does that mean, right? You're dropping your hands and your ball's probably going to go straight up. Now if you go to contact and you're kind of chopping at it or going down, your ball's probably going to go on the ground. So the way to know if you're doing this correctly is that if you're having that up and out angle with your ball, so think kind of like on a shoestring, it's going to kind of go on a line drive up and out, okay? So let me give you an idea of what this is supposed to look like. All right, so now I move the ball down the middle. This should be your one that you should warm up all the time with. So now when you stop at contact, you should have this ball going straight over that pitcher's head. You want it to go basically a straight line down center field. Now if you notice that your ball is tending to go to the right or going to the left, then you have an idea of how to correct your barrel, right? Because you need to make sure that that angle is going straight up to the pitcher. Okay, so let me show you exactly what this should look like. Okay, so now with our left on the outside, as you see that I move the tee down the plate, right? Because we gotta let it travel just a little bit. And now when you hit this ball and make contact, make sure that your angle of your bat is pointed to the second baseman, right? We don't want it to first base, and we don't want it to the pitcher or anything on the left side. We just want it to the second baseman. That's the perfect angle that you want. So now I'll show you exactly how to load and go and make sure that your contact point is over the second baseman. Well, that is it. We learned how to make contact for inside, how to make contact for down the middle, and how to make contact for outside. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.